Doctor acquitted of murdering 4 patients. People who serve time in PEI jails are often released into homelessness. Legal Aid Alberta is on the cusp of shutting down. 47 people have been killed in police-involved incidences so far in Canada this year. And Israel has murdered another 20 Palestinians in Gaza while settlers set fire to fields in the West Bank. Good morning. It's Thursday, July 4th. I'm Nora. Here are your headlines. We start with an update in the case of Dr. Brian Nadler. You might remember that the Montreal-based doctor had been accused of murdering 4 patients in Hawkesbury, Ontario in 2021, just as COVID was raging across Canada. CBC News is reporting that he was acquitted on Tuesday of all charges that he faced. The charges were for first-degree murder and criminal negligence. His trial was supposed to last 5 weeks, but he was acquitted on the first day. The Crown said that it may seek a new trial. It takes quite a while in reading the story to get to anything substantive, like what was Nadler actually accused of doing, and how could he go from 4 charges as serious as first-degree murder to an acquittal before the trial started. The 4 patients were in palliative care that Nadler's lawyer characterized as quote-unquote excellent, and that he gave the patients appropriate medication. He had been accused of murdering Albert Poindinger, Claire Brière, Lorraine Lalonde, and Judith Longulescu. CBC News doesn't include any reaction from the family members of the deceased. Next, to news from PEI by CBC's Shane Ross. The John Howard Society is ringing the alarm bell that people who are incarcerated in that province are often released onto the streets. The Society did research over the course of a year and found that as of March 2024, 75 people who had been released from provincial jails didn't have anywhere to go. That is 75 of about 117 inmates. That number is especially worrisome considering that on the island there are an estimated 168 people who experience homelessness. 75 people coming out from jail and directly into homelessness of a population of about 168 is significant. Connor Mullen, president of the John Howard Society on PEI, said this, quote, "If we had more transitional or second stage housing, people could be transitioned into housing, but we could make sure that they have the appropriate supports in place, supports for both the tenants and the landlords to help them deal with their issues, to teach them the necessary life skills, and to help people transition to independent living," unquote. Next, Legal Aid Alberta is on the cusp of shutting down. The organization's governance agreement with the province expired on June 30th. The province gave Legal Aid an offer that Legal Aid reps said would both impact their funding and independence, and therefore couldn't accept it. During the process of negotiating a new agreement, on June 27th, the government imposed a new agreement and said that it would be effective as of July 1st. The new agreement threatens Legal Aid's independence and also absolves the government of its obligation to fund it. Here's what the Alberta Family Lawyers Association said about the news. Quote, "Has the government of Alberta considered these immediate impacts on children in need of representation or survivors of family violence seeking to escape to safety, emergency protection hearings, child protection hearings, protecting the rights of children and disadvantaged parents and guardians, or duty counsel at the courthouse to assist self-representing people?" Unquote. In 2023-24, Legal Aid Alberta helped in some 33,500 cases. Anyone whose gross income is under $30,000 can apply for help through Legal Aid. Matthew Black from the Edmonton Journal notes that Mickey Amory, the province's justice minister, didn't respond to a request for an interview. In a statement, the Ministry of Justice argues that Legal Aid isn't expanding its services to enough new clients and that their funding has only increased by, quote unquote, nearly double over the past 9 years. Now, I added the word only. Of course, he believes that that's a lot of money, though, Mickey, that's not actually an impressive statistic. If you know anything about, inflation, rising costs, and the affordability crisis that's pushing more people out of being able to afford lawyers. Black reminds readers that the province is on track to post a $4.3 billion surplus. Next, the media co-op's Jeff Shantz is reporting that 9 people at least were killed by police in June. That brings the total number of people killed in an interaction with police to at least 47 this year alone. That is as many people who died in the Lac-Mégantic rail disaster, or more than double the number of people killed in the Humboldt-Broncos bus tragedy. Shantz reminds readers that there were at least 97 police-involved deaths in 2023 and 117 deaths in 2022. This is how Shantz describes the people who died in interactions with police. Quote, in June, at least 6 people were shot and killed by police. 2 died in custody. 1 person was killed in a police boat collision. British Columbia RCMP killed 2 people, as did the Ontario Provincial Police. 2 of the victims who have been identified publicly were Indigenous men. Drake Dillon, 27, a Makwa Seginikan First Nation man who was shot and killed by Saskatoon police on June 20th. Bruce Frog, 55, a Wawa-Capuan First Nation man was shot and killed by OPP in Anishinaabe Park, Kenora, on June 25th, unquote. Shantz then writes about what is known about each death, and you should check it out if you're curious about the circumstances of each of the 9 instances. And finally, news from Gaza. At least 7 people were killed by an Israeli airstrike near the Nasser Hospital complex in Khan Yunis. The strike struck a 5-story building. 12 other Palestinians were killed in a so-called safe zone in Khan Yunis as they had evacuated as they were ordered to do so by Israel. Just days ago, Israel ordered 250,000 people to leave eastern parts of Khan Yunis. This order stopped any UN efforts to deliver aid within that city. And in the West Bank, Israeli settlers have set fire to fields and fruit trees south of Hebron. They also set fire to fire engines and attacked emergency workers to stop them from trying to put out the fires. Israel also attacked southern Lebanon, killing a Hezbollah commander. Hezbollah said that they fired 100 Katyusha rockets at Israeli positions in the occupied Golan Heights. Those are your headlines for Thursday, July 4th. Hey, look, if you want to celebrate the independence of the United States and you're in Montreal, come to the Montreal Review of Books Summer Launch Party. It's tonight. It starts at 6 p.m. It's going to be held at Cafe Osmo, which is 51 Sherbrooke Street West. Now, the summer launch party, I get to read from my new book at it, so I will be there. But it's not just me. It's also Frankie Barnett and Noor Abi Nakhul. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you are in Montreal, make your way to the summer launch of the Montreal Review of Books tonight. And if you are not in Montreal, I am sorry, because Montreal is the best city in Canada. Okay, you are listening to this podcast at sandynora.com, on the Real News Network podcast feed, and anywhere you get your podcasts. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. I am about to split the daily news from the Sandy and Nora podcast stream. Pay attention to this. It's going to be a month of announcements to make sure that you don't miss anything. But that work is going to start very, very soon. And like always, I'll talk to you tomorrow.